Hey everyone, we are live from Gallifrey, and I have a new companion this week. It is Joe.
This is like a whole new set to me. What is going on? I'm in Elle's TARDIS. This is crazy. What a hell of a finale.
It really is. This was our last episode. We only got 10.
Don't tell me that.
Well, we do have a New Year's episode, so we have that to look forward to instead of a Christmas special. But unfortunate news that BBC released today, was it today or fairly recently, that Series 12 is not coming back till 2020.
You know what? If I can wait for Avengers for a year, I can wait for Doctor Who for a year.
It is true. And like we were talking about how much production value they do in this, I am willing to wait till 2020 until we get to Series 12.
This season has done something that I thought, from beginning to end, made every episode. By the way, I'm just gonna be candid. I haven't seen every single episode this season, but
they're all on par.
The ones that I have seen have blown me away visually.
Yes.
Even in the first episode where you get them sitting on a mountain and you see the camera kind of like pan in to them, it's like
on location.
Yeah, is this like ow? Like,
it's a movie. It's movie quality episodes, I feel like.
I am super impressed with the like if you go back and watch Christopher Eccleston to what they are now.
With like the mannequins, like man, production value has increased astronomically, and it's because of, you know, the fans. Like they're feeling this, and this is so great. This resurgence is amazing.
So after really exploring Jodie Whittaker, and I know that we've had a whole season of her now.
Yes.
I think that she is so freaking charming as the Doctor.
She really is. She has this kind of subtle charisma, and she's quirky and weird, and I love her.
But she also takes a hard stance, which I loved that she did in this episode with Graham tonight, that she lays down the line like, listen, if you do this, you cannot travel with me anymore.
Yeah, she was like, you need to go back to the TARDIS.
And to me, I'm not going to lie to you, I was on Graham's side. I was like, Graham, you got to do what you got to do, bro.
I mean, Tim Shaw did kill his wife in that first episode, and especially with the last episode where we got to see Grace just for a moment, and he's the only one that got to see her, really. Man, that was heartbreaking. So seeing this and how messed up he still is about her death was absolutely heartbreaking.
Let me ask you a question about this finale, because this, I don't want to say, well, it kind of does it ties up the series premiere for sure.
Yes.
But, and it also ties up some other things that we got throughout the season. Did you think that it was going to end up here?
I didn't, and it actually brought in everything that I kind of wanted. Like, we finally got the granddad with Ryan and Graham, and the fist bump in this episode, which I was getting kind of emotional, but I try so hard not to cry in public. So, but it was super great. And the references of Chibnall saying we're not bringing any of the old villains or anyone else back.
I love that.
But he tied it into the beginning of the series, which I thought was a nice gift wrap. Especially considering, like, he might not have come back, and Jodie Whittaker might not have come back, depending on, like, what agreement they had with BBC.
First of all, before we go further into this episode, we want to thank you guys for spending your Sunday night, or maybe even Monday morning with us, depending on where you are in the country or in the world. And let us know where you're from in the chat, talking about our love of this Doctor Who finale, because this isn't the end. We still got the New Year special left.
We do. One more episode.
We're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. But one thing I wanted to talk about Chibnall, and I want to give him a complete credit for, is watching this movie, not only did it feel cinematic.
Not even a movie, it was an episode. But it does feel like a movie, right?
Sorry. Watching this episode, did it not only feel cinematic, but I think that Chibnall did such a great job of making this Chibnall-esque, where if anybody that's kind of watched Broadchurch, he does this thing where he builds a mystery, right? And he did this in this episode. He built this mystery where he starts laying the seeds, and then laying more seeds, and then planting more, and you start getting it. And to me, once he kind of did that, and once you kind of get the reveal of everything that's going on, it all comes together and it ties up nicely, and he was able to do it within an hour.
Yeah.
That's super impressive to me.
And with only 10 episodes of the season so far, we already brought back the Stenza, Tim Shaw. He comes back around. We got references to, like, Ghost Monument, which is a TARDIS. He's like, you know, and these references, which is fun, that if you watched it from beginning to end, there's all these little Easter eggs, like, every single episode.
Did you expect to see Tim Shaw?
I don't know. We talked about it, and I thought he would be a really great character to come back because, man, the effects makeup looks disgusting and great.
He looks menacing.
Yeah, he does. And so I'm kind of happy he did come back.
Let me ask you another question. So, because honestly, when I first heard the voice, I was like, who is that? Is that like a dialect? Is that like, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised because I was not expecting Tim Shaw.
I actually wasn't either. And that's why I kind of turned around and asked our producer, I was like, is this Tim Shaw or is this another person from his race and we're encountering the same race again? But I kind of like it because this whole thing kind of dealt with the rippling effect of your actions and kind of how the doctor was telling Graham, like, you cannot do this. These are my rules. And for a moment, Graham brought back, it's like, because we let him live, 5 planets were destroyed.
Exactly.
And like, that was a really good point. So,
now, I have another question. You followed this throughout every episode this season.
yes.
Chat me up. Did you think that every companion was going to kind of get what they got throughout the course of the series? Because I will say this, and small, this is just a small criticism, and I understand that why they didn't do it. It's time restraints, but she did get her comeuppance is Yaz, and she didn't have a lot to do in this episode, but Ryan and Graham absolutely did.
And we started with them in the first episode, so it kind of makes sense that we are finally seeing them come together. But Yaz is a good supporting companion. She is always the one that talks to the new encounter. So we get to see, what was his name? Who was the pilot? That in my head I just call him Porkins, but he is Robert Baratheon, Peltraki. But Peltraki, the actor, whoever Robert Baratheon,
which we didn't know.
We didn't know. Our producer told us, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
But,
we had that shocked look on our face, just like the doctor did. Ro has a question. So with this season wrapped, which was the best episode?
Oh man,
That's better for you to answer than I, because I had not seen the full season yet.
That is hard. I am not.
I will say
this.
that I did see the Rosa Parks episode, and I was really
that one
moved
was
by
so
that.
good.
And it's surprising that I was actually, mainly because it's interesting. The Doctor being a female poses so many challenges. One is when you go back in the past, it's not like a white male, right?
Yes, so she is met with a lot of different, just social kind of limitations to being a female, which is a different take.
Literally, only the only opinion that really has any prominence in any time period is Graham.
Yes.
So when you go back with Ryan or Yaz, it's also a different scenario. To me, that Rosa Parks episode, and I didn't expect it to be, I don't want to say political might be the wrong word, but I didn't expect it to be as moving as it kind of was. I thought the episode, to me, really stood out the most. But the premiere, to me, kind of set the tone for everything.
It really did. Oh, man, especially with Graham and Ryan in the beginning, we're like already established that they're kind of like at odds. Graham wants to be the granddad, and Ryan is resistant to this. And we finally see it culminate in this like last episode where they are on the same page. Graham acknowledges and Ryan, accepts. And it's so good. But I feel like my favorite episode is probably, surprisingly, Yaz learning about her family history, about her grandparents, and how, even within families, you keep secrets.
Yes.
Like, that meant a lot to me.
Demons of the Punjab.
Yes, Demons of the Punjab. That was a great episode.
I haven't seen that one, but I hear great things about it.
Yeah. Especially since you haven't seen Yaz a whole lot in these like episodes that you have seen, that really showcases like her personality.
So anybody know, and listen, I'm not Daniel, because he's out watching Nickelback right now at the Morongo Casino.
He is not watching
He is watching Nickelback
okay.
for his birthday. That's what's happening. But I do want to say this. The one thing that you get with me on this show, which is I'm not Daniel, Cyril Moore says the show is boring. Cyril Moore, I got to say.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. Don't apologize. Don't apologize. I'm going to tell you why. Because Cyril Moore, you're in the fucking Ninja Steel chat every week. And talk about boring shows. Doctor Who is way better than Ninja
It's
Steel.
so good. Give it a chance.
Honestly, open your mind up just a little bit. Open your mind up, because if you do, you will see some of the best sci-fi storytelling on television currently. Not only that, but
this series in particular you need to watch. It's so good.
you know why though? Because I've noticed something that was, and I actually noticed it on this episode, is that it's such a throwback to Twilight Zone almost, where you kind of get the layouts of what the story is going to be, but then you get some kind of twist in it that's going to make you care. And to me, once you get storytelling like that, sky is the limits. I think Chibnall is knocking it out of the park. And honestly, regardless, you might think the show's boring because of preconceived notions.
But it's character development. It's not just sci-fi, but it's the characters that you kind of latch onto whether you want to or not. Like, I was, from the beginning, accepting that Graham was going to die the moment that Ryan acknowledged him as granddad, which has happened, and the fist bump, that already happened. But I am so happy that Graham is here, and he's your favorite character.
Graham is my favorite character, possibly of Doctor Who of all time.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you a little bit about Graham. Graham is one of the best written characters on television right now, especially in sci-fi. Graham has... The thing with Graham is that he started with a story arc, and he's even somewhat gotten it fulfilled.
He did. And I'm interested to see where he will move on after he, like, you know...
And that's what I find interesting about this, mainly because not only does Graham get a story arc fulfilled, and I think that you and I were watching this, like, and we kept telling... Our producer saw the episode before us.
Yeah.
We're like, tell us that Graham doesn't die. You better... Graham better not fucking die.
He is so funny, and that kind of dry British humor and, like, snarky
and
remarks.
He sets... And they set it up to the point where you think he is going to die.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. By the way, if you haven't seen this episode, stop right now, watch it, and then come back to this show.
Or if we can convince you, like Cyril Moore, please watch it. I think it's so good, but I would start from episode 1 for the series in particular.
You have to. Because Graham, look, and it's so funny because looking at the characters, most of you guys are younger folks out there. So is she. I'm probably closer to Graham age. No, actually,
we're pretty close.
We're closer to the doctor's age than anybody. But like, with Graham, though, even though he's an older dude,
he's super relatable.
He's the most relatable person on the show.
He's like every single time. He's the one that brings sandwiches because he knows he's going to be out on adventures.
I love that.
I don't know how long. He's like, I get hangry. He's the one that has like remarks. And like, even in this episode, the yippee-ki-yay robots, where it's like references that, like, to things
Pop
that we think are funny.
Like, honestly, Graham, I almost think that Graham is the audience eyes. I think
our producer says that he's Chibnall, like, very well informed and knows everything funny. Yeah,
that makes the most sense. Is that it's pretty much Chibnall's eyes, but for me, it's the eyes in which I see things as well.
Yeah, we project ourselves onto him specifically.
So with the episode, because this is really your thing. Did you, as a finale, did you like it?
I did. I thought, kind of talking about like how the Doctor sets all these rules, can break them sometimes, and like the rippling effect of everybody's actions. And I thought this tied everything up nice and neat.
Who's Joe? Ro asks, which is a better character, Joe, Graham, or my favorite Captain Jack?
Who's better character, Joe, comma?
Oh, Joe, to me.
Because you said Graham is...
I think, all right, so anybody that wants to know my Doctor Who kind of like linear... here's the only reason I'm on the show. I am a huge Doctor Who fan. I've been to Gallifrey 1 for the... Actually, I didn't even say we met there, but we hang out there a few times. I'm a big Doctor Who fan. To the point where I have attended a lot of the Gallifrey ones.
Yes.
Captain Jack actually isn't one of my favorite characters. I like Captain Jack a lot.
He's fun.
But my favorite character of all time before Graham was Wilfred.
Wilfred is so much fun. Aliens.
Because he reminds me of my dad.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he's not like a crazy alien guy.
Like looking at the sky.
But just that kind of... So in Wilfred's season, or I shouldn't even say season, episode... where it's the 3 knocks.
Oh, yeah.
It just reminds me of something my dad would do to get himself in a situation if he were with the Doctor. And then when the Doctor kind of flips out and is like, you know what? You're pretty much nobody. I can do so much more. And then Wilfred's, you know what? He's like, just leave me. Leave me. You can. Yeah. My dad would do the same thing. And then when the Doctor kind of opens it, it'd be my honor. I can imagine my dad being like, no, don't do it. But it just reminds me of stuff that kind of like I can imagine my dad doing. Whereas I think that more with Graham, I think that Graham is who I want to be.
I think, yeah, I agree with that. He is conscientious, but he's also kind of fueled by his emotions too, where he is angry, and I feel like I would be like that too, where it's like, I'm kind of a vengeful person, and I would want to kill Tim Shaw, and I'd be like, you can't tell me what to do. I am already here. I have my mindset. I mean, spoilers, he doesn't do it, but... I
mean, but even so, like, the build-up to that, I think that they played it...
I feel like he was justified in asking for
that. Exactly. I love the fact, though, that even though they play it to the point where Graham's almost defiant, where he's kind of like...
I'll do what I want.
I'm going to do what I want to do.
And then I kind of feel like that, too, where, like, he had that sense of, like, my life doesn't matter anymore as long as I, avenge my wife.
Ooh, JD, who's on here, follow him. It was his birthday.
It was.
Lent324. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram. He says, this season they use Graham a lot. I hope they showcase the other companions more in the next season. I think that's a great point. because Ryan, I feel like, is somebody I want to explore more now.
Yeah, he has, like, they set up this whole thing where he has a coordination disability, and it doesn't play into anything, and I wonder if they're just going to drop it, because I don't think it's a good character trait for him. It serves no purpose.
It has to play out, though, right?
I guess if it's a long game, but, like, within all of these adventures, they'll be like, oh, you were kind of slow coming down the ladder, but he was never in danger. He never put anyone else's life in danger because he has this problem. It serves no purpose to push any of the stories forward, so I'm waiting for that for Ryan, but...
Listen,
I still like him.
Obviously, there's a lot of you Whovians in this chat right now. And right now, listen, we want people to watch Doctor Who.
Yes.
So what I recommend you guys doing is to share us in all these Doctor Who groups, because we want to show our love of Doctor Who just as much as you do, and we want to keep the show thriving. Not just for our sakes, but because this is one of the best seasons we've gotten. Listen, I liked Capaldi a lot. But the fact is, Jodie Whittaker is knocking out of the park, and we want people to see that. Because we want to show that Doctor Who can be so much more. Like David Tennant says, he could be so much more. This show is doing so much more, and we want you guys to watch it.
And if you don't like it, you could fight me, because I love this season, but I try to have an open mind, and maybe I'm, like, blinded, because it's, like, you know, female doctor, and it's, like, representation is, like, important to me, but I think she is so much fun. So if you want to fight me, we could, like, duke it out on THS hashtaggers.
Let me ask you a question about the Doctor, actually. So Jodie Whittaker,
I'll probably lose.
Jodie Whittaker came into the season as the first female Doctor.
Yes.
I almost see this kind of glimmer in her of Matt Smith a little bit.
It is. She has that really playful, weird.
But she also has the quirkiness of David Tennant.
It is Tennant and Matt Smith kind of put into one. They kind of pulled their most favorite doctors and gave her those qualities. But I feel like that's kind of naturally her too, because even like at Comic-Con, she does have that charisma naturally. So,
but it's interesting though, because I don't feel like any of her. Well, maybe a little bit. I don't really feel like any of her is much of Capaldi, but I love her over explanation of things because Matt Smith used to do the same things, and it just triggers that in me of like, she's a fun, whimsical doctor, but tough when she needs to be, and I love that.
She takes her stand, like we were saying with Graham, and saying like, no, you are not my companion if you take this route.
I love that. But also, another question I had from the beginning of the season, and I'm curious of how you kind of coped with it or dealt with it or ended up liking it, is that I'm so used to having a singular companion for every season.
I mean, but with Matt Smith, we were introduced to the Pawns. They always came as a couple.
That's true.
And then we had Mickey and Rose.
But Mickey didn't last very long.
That's true. That's true. He wasn't around for very long.
So talk to me about this. With Yaz, Graham, and Ryan, did you think it was going to work?
I was really curious. That's why, like, I thought that Graham was going to die in the beginning, because it's hard to have three companions. And obviously, like, they're trying to set up, like, Ryan and Yaz as some kind of romance, it seems like. So I thought they were going to kill off Graham. But I actually do think it works. Like, their personalities are so very different. Like, Yaz is very family-oriented, cares about the person. And Graham is, like, you know, trying to get over the death of his wife and move on and have fun and experience life without fear. And we have Ryan, who was, like, kind of in this mundane life routine and getting to experience this. Like,
the show starts off with Ryan.
It does, but it's different perspectives, I think, and it kind of adds to how the Doctor, I don't know, like, views certain things. Like, they bring up good points when she's, like, narrow-minded and kind of focused on one thing. They'll be like, hey, what about this? She's like, yes, it's a brilliant idea. So
one thing that I love about Graham too is that, well, I don't know if I love this, but it did feel like his story completed last episode. I didn't see it, but from what I was told,
oh yeah,
it kind of gets this closure, and to me, that's what made it the most tense. Of like, oh, please don't let Graham die.
That's what I thought too, especially coming into this episode and the whole thing that we were talking about
Jared
last week.
2020.
We were waiting for the fist bump, and when that happened, my heart sank because I was like, Graham is gonna die for some reason or another. But I am so glad that he is here for the long haul, and if he dies in the New Year's episode, I'm a rage. But
yeah,
I hope he is here because he gives the most insight and is the most helpful, considering he's just a bus driver in his real life, but well-educated, knowledgeable, cares about.
Yeah. That's actually a great point you brought up, because I love in the first, like, he sets this up, right? Yeah. Where it's like, bus drivers know everything.
In the Rosa Parks episode, where that's how he gets intel, because he's a bus driver.
And it seems like unknowingly, Graham kind of, like, he does know everything. Yeah. I like that Graham's kind of also chill.
He is.
You know what I mean? Like, he's on chill mode until he sees what's the villain's name?
Tim Shaw.
Tim Shaw, and he's like, fuck this guy.
No,
I'm gonna kill him.
but even then when
Oh,
he
Grace.
was like, hey, can I talk to the doctor alone? He was like, I just want to let you know that I might have to, kill this guy.
Hey guys,
Like, he's so calm about it.
you know what we love? We love super chats. You know why?
Why?
Because it helps support the show and it makes cool little TARDIS sets like this. But also, we also want to include your comments in here. A great comment like this from Explosive Phoenix, Joe and Elle. Who's your favorite Doctor from the old Who, and who is your favorite Doctor from the new Who?
Old Who is hard. I would have to think.
No.
Baker?
No, am I allowed to say old Who,
Paul
Paul
McGann?
McGann?
That's yeah. I feel like Paul McGann's
Old
a good
Who,
one.
like I'm a Paul McGann. He's my favorite Doctor of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all time. And the reason why he's my first Doctor. So,
Okay.
a little backstory on this. We used to play a game here at the Comic Bug in Manhattan Beach, which is hosting this beautiful show right now. You guys can come down and see us live every weekend.
Buy some
right
comics.
Here. Buy some comics. Read some Doctor Who comics. You can come and watch Doctor Who with us on Sundays when it comes back on the air. But you can join
In
us
2020?
live. Yes. So, we used to play this game called Hero Clicks, and Daniel Nagami, who's our producer right now, and another guy, Justin Scott, who worked with us or played with us this game, they would always talk about this show, Doctor Who, and they would talk about it, and it went over my head. I didn't understand it, but then they brought in, I don't know if I think Daniel Nagami brought in the episode of Paul McGann, and I watched it, and I was like, I like this show, and then I was like, hey man, or I think I watched the whole randomly on BBC. The Eccleston season aired.
Okay.
And then I saw the Tennant season, but then the Matt Smith stuff hadn't started yet. And I was like, hey, man, can I borrow, do you have all the Matt Smith? And he ripped it for me. I'm just kidding.
He totally got it.
He
Bought
the seasons and
Yes.
gave it to me.
Yes.
He bought the seasons and gave it to me.
Yes.
And with the receipt,
Yeah.
by the way, if you need that receipt, we'll
We
put
have
that
proof.
up. Yes. He got the season for me, and I watched it, and I fell in love with the show. Like, I fell in love with the show when I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
But Paul McGann was my first Doctor, and I feel like that is something that's always going to stick with me. And and also he's the first Doctor that as hashtag show we ever interviewed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Oh, that's
and he was
awesome.
so chill. And to me, I always have wanted to see a Paul McGann kind of like Doctor Who spinoff. Right?
Oh, that would be fun.
Even though like we all have our kind of favorite, I almost feel like every Doctor that's the current Doctor ends up becoming my favorite Doctor at the time. But my heart says Paul McGann.
All right.
My favorite companion, another story.
That is hard. Who?
I don't want to say because everyone hates me.
Is
for
it Rose?
No.
God, is
I'm not
it
a Rose guy.
All right.
I'm not a
Then
Rose guy.
any companion is fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Daniel doesn't like it though.
Oh God, is it canine?
No.
Is that
Modern.
Modern.
Pond.
No.
I like the pawns.
Oh no, I know who you like.
Amelia. Or not Amelia. Sorry. Why did I say Amelia? Clara.
Oh,
I love Clara.
she is so adorable. It's just like her arc towards Capaldi's got really muddled,
The
but her
reason-
finish was so good. I
the
like cried
reason-
so hard.
The reason I love Clara, yes, it was amazing. The reason I love Clara though is because at times she felt more like the Doctor than I think Capaldi did.
Well, because she's been through all the timelines and like knows his entire history, she kind of is the Doctor and has been a Dalek. She's been everything.
But not anymore. My favorite companion now is Graham.
Yes.
I love Graham. He's the best. But let's talk about this episode a little bit, some more obviously.
All right.
One thing that really tugged at my heartstrings is when they did the fist bump and he tells him I love him.
Oh my God, I cried.
Ah, man.
But internally,
Are you
because I
fucking
didn't,
kidding
because
me?
Joe was here, I can't show weakness.
I almost cried. I started tearing up.
And he was like, "Don't make me say it again." So I love how they have these like emotional bits and then immediately undercut it with humor. Like that's my kind of how I deal with emotion. Like when I start getting like teary-eyed, it's like I try to like cut it with a joke, you know?
That's like almost when you're a little kid and like your parents are dropping you off at school and you're like, I want to leave, and they're like, no, you better give me a kiss first. And like, stop it, Dad. You know, like, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like that moment for me kind of captured, and that's why I was so afraid for Graham actually.
Yes.
It's because he got everything that besides having Grace back, he got everything that he kind of wanted from his relationship with Ryan.
Yes.
And that was super touching to me.
And Ryan's acceptance, and I feel like that grows his character from being, like, we kind of find out it's, like, not good enough for his gran.
Yes.
For whatever reason, we didn't really go into it. And he's like, that was a long time ago. And kind of on these adventures has actually grown as a family. And the Doctor at the end of the episode is like, come on, fam.
Yes,
like,
I love that.
Are we going to use it? And they're like, he's like, oh, I like it. Let's go. It's like, yeah, because they are a family. They care about each other. They love each other, whether they say it or don't say it. It is kind of assumed at this point that they are on these adventures together.
And also, I love the fact that have become a family, because now the one cool thing about this show that's evolved is that it's an ensemble now.
Yes.
Like, you can have a Yaz episode, you can have a Graham episode, you can have a Ryan episode, you can have a Doctor episode. Any one of those episodes can be very good for very different reasons. And all the other three cast members that aren't highlighted are great supporting cast members.
And it depends on the villain, too, because whatever I kind of feel like obstacle that they encounter, there is a certain companion that will rise to the occasion where it fits their qualities the best, and that's how we get showcased with the different companions. So coming up with these obstacles is actually kind of interesting.
Now, when we see Tim Shaw, and we see him in somewhat peril, he's there and
with his Darth Vader mask.
I almost thought
like,
Kylo Ren, right? Like, it seemed a little bit like Kylo Ren.
Yeah,
and I love
especially with the red lighting and everything, and he's on his little platform.
And she goes, you look terrible. She says something like, you look terrible, and I got a new coat.
And he's like, what about me? Yeah, she's so cheeky and like cute in these moments. I love it.
The tone that she sets for the Doctor, I think, is pretty amazing. But I also like the fact that this Doctor hasn't veered away from the stances that all the Doctor says. She values life.
Yes.
And
no matter who you are.
No matter the consequences, no matter what. She'll punish you, for sure.
Yeah.
But she values life. And I think that that's a through line that, I don't want to say Doctor Who, it definitely hasn't lost it. But I feel like it's a thing that
it wasn't emphasized as much. Because Capaldi was a little more vengeful as a character, almost like like he was an older kind of like.
Did you see those
grizzled,
eyebrows?
Yes, attack eyebrows. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it's refreshing, and I like it. And when Graham actually shoots Tim Shaw's foot, and he was like, "Oh my God, please don't tell her," because like I still want to be a companion.
Livid.
Yeah.
He's like, I just shot her foot. That was great.
And like Ryan's face was like, "Oh my God, you actually shot him." It's like, no, it's just his foot. It's just his foot. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
But see, that's why I love Graham, because he's such a fallible character, but at the same time, he does the things that you would want to do.
Yeah.
And I like his pop culture references,
yes.
But I also like the fact that I think that, honestly, with Graham, as much as we might not notice it, he subtly has changed the most, because he was out for vengeance from episode 1. That was, I don't want to say that was his driving force, but it's something that he always promised himself. And then once he finally realized, and especially with Ryan and the Doctor and Grace kind of like all in his head being like, be the better man.
Yeah.
And he takes the high road. To me, it just showed that, like, man, not only if you would have killed him, I'd have been with you, but now that you didn't, I even like you even more. I don't even know that was possible.
And the whole thing from the beginning, too, like Grace tells him in the first episode, don't be scared. Like, because he was a very timid man. He didn't take chances. He wasn't adventurous. He was just wanted to have a quiet life. And to see him here, like, holding a alien gun and shooting, like, teeth face over here, I was like, oh my goodness, Graham has grown astronomically. Ryan, too, for finally accepting him as granddad, realizing that Graham cares about him and his family and his well-being. So I don't know. This has been an amazing journey.
I know.
For both of them.
Who'd have thought that when we had our first Doctor Who casting announcements, they were like, all right, Ryan makes sense. Yaz makes sense. Graham? Like, this
and he is the standout character. I feel like...
It's almost kind of like Chibnall was like, haha, fuck you. I won. And he's like, I was going to get you to care about this character that you didn't think you were going to care about, but you care.
But that's the writing. Like, even the side characters that you don't necessarily care about a whole lot, you really empathize with them for one reason or another,
100%.
Especially in any of the other episodes. And, for those of you in the chat, you can, try to fight us, but I think all these characters are super likable. Does anyone not like Graham?
I mean, honestly...
How do you not like Graham?
I don't actually... This is interesting because, all right, so I know I'm a Clara fan, but I also know that there's a lot of Clara haters out there, and I understand why. Also, I know that, like, people like Donna, some people hate Donna. Some people like Martha, some people hate Martha. Some people like Rose, some people hate Rose.
Everyone likes Graham.
Everyone likes Graham. I mean...
Who out there does not like Graham?
It's interesting to me, right? Like, who'd have thought
You're going to get shot in the foot. Because you're Tim Shaw.
Because you're Tim Shaw. But that's another one, right? So, first of all, and it's so funny because I think, I don't know who I was talking to. It may have been Daniel Nagami about this. Talking about the first episode, and it's like, man, they made that Tim Shaw costume.
So good.
That's only in one episode. What a waste.
Right?
So it's like, this has to be now a reoccurring character.
No, because we were talking about that too. Like, the effects are so good. And, like, the prosthetics and everything. So I'm glad that he came back. And it really tied up the first and the last episode of the season perfectly.
One thing I do want to emphasize as well that they did so well on this season of Doctor Who is that they did make every episode look cinematically, but they shot in different locations around the world, which actually I didn't know. Our producer informed us that like South Africa was one of the locations. Where were some of the other ones? Spain.
Norway, of course.
Yeah, dude, all around the world. So
and it's gorgeous, and it does look sci-fi. Where it's like, I can't believe these places actually exist on Earth.
Yeah,
like,
as soon as they're running through those kind of like that landscape, the rocks, it's kind of like, where was that shot? It's like, I don't know. That could have been in South. That could have been almost anywhere.
Right.
But it just looks so cinematic. One thing that's kind of underplayed here, which you and I both didn't know, Robert fucking Baratheon.
Yes, he was who I called Porkins.
I did call him Porkins.
Yeah, I did.
Call him Porkins.
Because he kind of almost looks like the...
And that's going to tie into our next show that I'm on called Star Wars Fanatics.
At 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
8 o'clock. 8:30. 8:30. Star Wars Fanatics.
But you kept calling him Porkins.
I don't know. I just recognize him as Robert Baratheon. He's been dead for a while.
He has been dead for a while. But he doesn't look
Spoilers,
anything like Robert Baratheon. Credit to him as an actor, though.
Yeah.
That he was so unrecognizable in this role.
But when you look at him, it's like, oh yeah, that is him. I
Yeah.
guess I just haven't seen him for so long on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no beard, no giant beard, and
not
no
super
crown.
drunk and being like really resentful and misogynistic.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on this episode was the interior sets.
Yes.
Because everything in those sets, obviously it looked alien.
But the lighting,
and the
so
lighting,
sci-fi, like almost alien, like very dark, but you can still see what's going on.
I love the tone that it kind of set, because it almost gave you this sense that anything was going to happen.
Yes.
And anything kind of does happen, to the point where you and I, watching the episode, we watch it with no commercial breaks. We don't have time to breathe. So what I mean by that is that when we thought that Graham was going to be in peril, we legit were on the verge of tears if he would have died.
I was so upset, like several times, like interrupted during the show, was like, hey, Nagami, he survives, right? And he was like...
He would walk away. Nagami would just walk away.
He has the best poker face I've ever seen. Like, no giveaways whatsoever. I like that, because I actually do hate spoilers. Even though I ask all the questions, I don't want the answers sometimes.
Yeah. I also... Let's talk about the aliens they encountered. What were the name of the aliens in this episode?
Stenza?
No.
Oh, wait. Not Tim Shaw? The Oaks?
The Urks?
Ooks?
Orts?
Ooks?
Something?
The two alien species that are able to create everything, which is kind of like the political satire theme maybe this week, because every week they have some either social commentary or political commentary, and it was kind of like...
That character reminded me of Bishop from the X-Men.
Which one's Bishop?
The black guy with the dreadlocks.
All right. Well, I was like, what powers? But that's cool.
The one that he looks exactly like Bishop, but I think that they do.
Cool.
Cool story, bro. They do a great job here of.
Oh, you're talking about his like laser eyes or something.
No,
Never
he
mind.
had you know who Bishop is?
I don't.
I'm on his face.
Actually,
Can you pull up a picture of Bishop so she could see the resemblance there?
And I'm sad because I actually really do like X-Men. I don't know who Bishop is.
Oh yeah, he should have played Bishop actually. But I the one thing I do like about this episode though, multiple things I like about this episode by the way. I feel like I have ADD. There's so much I want to talk about
yes.
now. This in particular, these aliens in particular, what I did like about them is that there's Bishop. There he is.
Oh yeah, he does kind of look like him.
Well, can you show him with dreadlocks? I mean, is
I was
that
like
a thing?
well, he has the longer
don't
hair.
make me seem super racist here. I do like the fact that they kind of use the allegorical kind of like pseudo. We're following something that we think is important.
Yeah.
As a thing.
Like the very blind faith.
Blind faith, exactly.
Kind of,
they follow this blind faith kind of thing, and then they realize we were worshiping a false god for the wrong reasons. But listen up, people.
But willing to move past that too. It's not just a critique of necessarily like this kind of religion that they were saying that, you know, this is our God and our creator, but finding the power within them too to be like, you know, we agree with some things, but not the others, and that's okay.
Yeah, I really like the fact that they kind of dive into that, but they also introduce a new alien race, which I hope pops up again. Like, doesn't he? A little bit? No?
Yeah.
Same thing?
Sure.
They pop into that.
I mean, out of all the characters on the show in this episode, yes, he most closely resembles.
I think that they kind of dive into this kind of blind faith thing, and I think that that's such a kind of important kind of thing that one thing that Doctor Who's always been good at is social relevancy.
Yes.
And I think this is another one of those kind of moments, right? So I know a lot of you guys out there also watch Power Rangers. Power Rangers is very surface level social kind of things, whereas Doctor Who dives deep into them and really like digs out like the things that you should connect with.
And a lot of things, there's no right or wrong answer. It's all kind of muddled in the middle.
Exactly. So, I mean, exactly. I found myself watching this episode thinking like, man, I might not believe in this, but now I can kind of understand why people do. You know what I mean?
And like the whole critique, like not just blind faith, but when you think about it, like, yes, you can have faith and that's okay, but do you really want to believe in someone that's destroying things instead of creating things? Like, that's your whole thing as a species, is to create. And this is the opposite of what you should be doing. It's like, oh, okay.
That's Bishop!
All right. With laser eyes.
Well, Bishop, when he gets, like, his eyes light up sometimes.
Okay. Then, yes, that is just like him.
No, but, like, you were on a great point. I cut you off because I'm an idiot. But I will honestly tell you that, like, I agree with you. The one cool thing I love about Doctor Who is that there's so much social relevancy in the show that even in subtle casting, right?
Yeah.
So, like, somebody like Yaz, which most people might not connect with, once you see her journey, it's like, I'm on board. Listen.
Humanizes everyone, like, cares about, like, goes out of her way to think about people that we've seen in certain episodes. Like, there was one where, you know, his father passes away, and she's like, I want to go visit the family and just let them know that, you know, he died heroically, he saved my life, he did this. And
exactly.
I'm like,
Exactly. And I think that you hit it right on the head there. And then who'd have think that I'd care about, like, Graham, a middle-aged dude that, like, that's just, you know.
Was kind of wimpy when you met him, and just very basic and very kind of the everyday older Chen.
I do want to say this about people that have stopped watching Doctor Who, or people that have never watched it before, is that if you ever wanted to kind of jump on a show, not only would this be it, but if you stopped watching it because you weren't a fan of a female doctor, honestly, I mean, I don't want to. The obvious answer is that you're a sexist or a misogynist, but I'm not going to go in that. I'm not going to go in that direction. I will say this: is
She's
that
so cute, though. How can you not like her?
But you dropped off too early because this is just straight up good storytelling.
It is.
And like I said, I'm a huge fan of the '60s Twilight Zone episodes. This show does something that kind of like, you get the story and then it does this modern twist, and it's like, oh, you blew my mind in this episode, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they hit it on the head every single time. So if you like good storytelling, and I know a lot of you guys are fans of Power Rangers in here, but if you want to start expanding your horizons to get into more diverse storytelling,
yes,
jump on Doctor Who right now. Try to go and watch.
And you
as
have
many as
some
you
time
can.
to catch up, because this is not coming back until early 2020. They didn't give an exact date. We don't get a Christmas episode. And if you have any ideas for Christmas episodes, next week, Daniel and I will be reading some of your ideas and trying to create our own Christmas episode. So if you could
It's like a fanfic?
Yeah, we are trying to create our own fanfic Christmas episode. So if you have ideas, please email them to ths@thathashtagshow.com.
So you got it right there.
Please send some, because we're not that creative, and it's been a struggle to get this together.
So let's just run through some lineage of Doctor Who Christmas episodes. We've had Nick Frost up here, if you guys know him from Shaun of the Dead, or a lot of those integrations with Simon Pegg. We've also had Peter Capaldi's last Christmas episode with David Bradley was amazing, and it introduced the first Doctor, kinda. I would suggest watching it. There's also
there's the Christmas Carol
Justin
one.
Chadwan with that was in there as a superhero.
Wait, what was that one?
He was the like Superman-esque character.
Return of Dr. Mysterio.
Yeah, the Return of Dr. Mysterio.
Okay.
I really like that episode. But I really suggest sending in your fanfic here, because
Please help us be creative. Like, any kind of ideas, dialogue, characters, whatever you want to see, we're going to try to incorporate it.
we have so much more in this episode, though. Elle, what were some of your highlights?
I mean, obviously, we kind of already talked about the major highlight was the fist bump between Graham and Ryan. And I like how he was still kind of like this, you know, and like he was just like, so what do we do now? And it's like, wait, are you talking about the fist bump? Like, are you done? Or are you talking about what are you going to do with Tim Shaw?
Well, I almost got when after the fist bump, it was, you could almost see in Graham's eyes, there was this sense of accomplishment of like, oh, now it's real. Like now I've actually connected with who I consider my grandson.
Yes.
To me, the most touching relationship in the show, right? They build this up, And I love the fact that they never play into it. And you know, eventually, when you hear in the first episode that he doesn't call him granddad off the bat,
Yeah.
you know that that's coming. But you're so anticipating it in every episode, in this episode too, to the point where I got goosebumps when he calls him granddad and says, "I love you." He's like, "I'm not gonna say it again." And it's like, all right, I almost felt like, Graham, what'd you say?
Yeah. And where he was just like, again, like 2 episodes in a row, you're gonna give me some props, and I was like, yes. So
and he says we're family. And honestly, with Ryan, I actually think Ryan might be the most, almost stable of the companions in terms of like leadership, in terms of like, listen, we got to do this, this, and this, right?
Well, in the other episodes, he was being kind of a wiener. He was being kind of mean to like the new characters that we were seeing.
Hey, got to break a few eggs.
But it turns out he was right.
Got to break a few eggs.
He was right about the dad. The dad did abandon his baby girl, so I mean, yeah.
Honestly, I mean, if you look at the companions in terms of like ensembles, obviously Rose stood out. They obviously want you to like Rose, and Mickey's kind of like the whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I almost, as much as I hate to say it, because I love Arthur Darvill, they really look at Amy in one way, and they look at Rory and
like they call him the Pawns.
Yeah,
like
right?
It's Amy's last name.
But I like in this though, they really do give everybody kind of like this equal footing, right? Because I do care about.
That is a really good point, because Matt Smith is like the Pawns, like obviously favored Amy because met her as a child, versus this doctor individually accepts all of them for who they are.
And I also think that, I don't know if it's because she's a woman doctor or female doctor, but it's that nurturing side of the doctor, which we've never really seen.
That is true. Because Matt Smith was a little too goofy.
He cared, obviously.
He did, but he was kind of like, I don't know, more like capricious, I guess, versus Tennant cared a little too much just for Rose, you know, and Capaldi was, well, Eccleston especially was just like, "Yo, Rose, if you don't get away from like the fireplace, I'm gonna leave you here." So
and then you got Capaldi's very much like, you know, he's it's all Claire for him.
Yeah,
that's all he cares about.
Yeah.
Like I almost forgot Bill was a companion for a second, but I do love this about Jodie Whittaker's doctor, is that she's kind of like this. This kind of like a caretaker, matron of all these people that she's with. She actually gives a fuck. She cares.
Yeah. And that's her character too, not just for her companions, but at the beginning of this episode where they get these calls for help or these kind of pings that haven't been answered, and she was like, "You can't. Are we going to ignore it too? Are we just going to be like them? Because it's like, why are we the ones that have to go help these people?" And she was like, "Because no one else did."
Right.
And I was like, that speaks volumes, not only for her character, but for the doctor in general and what they're the story that they're trying to tell.
Technically, this is the finale of the show.
It is.
Talk to me about...
We just get a special.
We just get a special. I think that special is going to be pretty freaking amazing.
I hope it is.
Is this a new trend, though? Are we not getting Christmas specials anymore? Is it going to be New Year specials at this point?
They didn't really announce anything. It's just the first year because Chernobyl was like, we ran out of Christmas stories. We're going to do a New Year's one.
What the fuck? How do you run out of Christmas stories?
That's what we're saying. That's why we're trying to do our own fanfic Christmas stories.
So ran out of Christmas stories?
Yeah. So please submit those into THS at that
you know how many
show.com.
Christmas songs there are?
Yeah.
Name them.
I don't know. Like
Jingle
Bells, Frosty the Snowman.
There's
Santa's
never
Baby.
been a Frosty the Snowman on Doctor Who. Let's get a Frosty the Snowman. There's be an ice world in there somewhere.
But I mean, they went to like Chronicles of Narnia through like Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe.
Hey, I like that episode.
They had Santas that were like shooting people too. I mean, there are a lot of Christmas stories, but there could be so many more. So please send those in because Daniel and I are not that creative.
Listen, New Year's story though opens a lot of doors.
New beginnings.
And it also could be a double meaning of like obviously it's the Doctor, so New Year means that we can go to a completely different time era, right?
That's true.
I
like that. I like that.
Yeah,
time travel.
There's a lot of things you can do. Jodie Whittaker can do anything.
She can. She's a doctor.
She is the Doctor. She's awesome, by the way. Man, I don't want to wrap it up here. He's got the sign. I like talking about Doctor Who. This is a fun show to be on.
Please join us. Well, next week we're doing our own Christmas special, and I think maybe after that we're going to be doing
You have retros.
Are we doing retros?
Oh, this is a great point.
We're probably going to do this.
You should probably talk about this.
Paul McGann.
Oh, my favorite Doctor. Can I talk about it?
Yes,
Let me talk
please.
about Paul McGann. Let me break you down on a little bit of Paul McGann. So, Paul McGann is the 8th Doctor. Not only is he the 8th Doctor, but he's kind of... I like to consider Paul McGann the bridge between old school Doctor Who
Yes.
and new school Doctor Who. He is the bridge. He's only in one movie, but he's been in a few audiobooks, which I'm sure this show's going to cover. Lots of audiobooks, which I'm sure this show's going to cover. But also, there was an episode that during the Time Wars around when Matt Smith was leaving, he appeared in this little short. And I was at work.
Wait, really?
Oh.
I don't know if I've seen this.
Dude,
I might have.
He appeared in this little short. And then he regenerates into John Hurt.
Okay. Oh yeah, War Doctor.
Yeah, the War Doctor. But he's in the short, and I was like, oh shit, they got Paul McGann back for this. Doctor Who, get on retro. A lot of you.
And it is generations of fans.
Listen,
Please join us.
A lot of you have never seen Doctor Who. A lot of you are following us from Power Rangers. A lot of you are following us from a lot of things. But if you
a lot of you are following us just because Joe told you to during our retro.
Hey, fucking follow us, bitches.
I mean,
I'm not that harsh, guys. I'm wearing a suit for goddamn sakes. But listen.
What does that have to do with being nice?
That means I'm nice. That means this is nice, Joe. What this means though is that if you've never watched Doctor Who before, right now is your jumping on point. Get into it because we're going to experience this all together. I'm going to be back on a few of these, but we're going to experience it all together because for me, reliving some of these older episodes, oh man, it's so much. So honestly, I got into fish and chips. It's so much fun. I got into fish and chips because of one episode in Doctor Who.
Wait, you ate the food or like what do you mean?
Hey, yeah.
You had never had fish and chips before that moment?
I didn't care about them as much.
Oh, but double fried things, so delicious.
It's like my favorite. I didn't care about them as much.
Oh, that's my favorite food group. It's fried.
Fried?
Yeah.
It is a food group, I hear. Yeah, you're like custard. You're like what was it? Fish fingers and custard, Doctor. Yeah, but take us out because I love talking about Doctor Who. This is fun.
But we will be back next week at the same time, which is 7 o'clock. I don't even know what time we go on.
I think we go on at 7.
At 7 o'clock, give or take, depending on how long retro lasts.
Also, all of you guys, like she said, send in your fanfic about a Christmas special.
We are gonna make hot chocolate because I'm gonna show Larry Newbill up.
I don't like the word fanfic either. I like pitch. Pitch us.
Pitch us an idea.
Pitch us your Christmas special.
Chat me up about your Doctor Who special.
One. Elle and Daniel are going to choose which one of your fanfics are the best, and that's going to go up on our website. It's our Doctor Who fan theory of the week, because I think that would be amazing. And, hey, we need a Christmas episode. We need some really Christmas in our life. Goddamn gift exchanges, bitches. But no,
I'm
honestly,
Christmas festivities already.
I almost want to make a shirt that is of like the Die Hard movie poster, but it's Graham saying "Yippee-ki-yay." Like I think that would be awesome.
Oh man, that would be
Yippee-ki-yay robots.
Yes.
is what I want.
Oh my god, that would be so good.
I do want that. But man, this is a great finale, but also a great first season of Jodie Whittaker. Yes. Jodie Whittaker did an amazing job.
She really did. And all the companions, the writing, the sets, the cinematography has been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, this series.
Any haters out there, all I'm asking is please just give it one episode. It's really good. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Yes. You guys are amazing. Elle, where can everybody find you?
I'm Elle Tea on Instagram and Facebook.
And you can find me at that hashtag Joe. And you can find Elle every Sunday.
Live from Gallifrey at 7 o'clock.
Join her. Show some support, God damn it.
Yes.
That's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.